meme coins of this generation, how to find them, what's the best way to understand the timing of them, and the cultural implications that will let you know what a true meme coin is and which ones are actually going to survive and actually lead the way. And of course, we're going to look at this juxtaposed against asset classes like real world assets. But let's dive in. As you see, Trump has disclosed $1.4 billion in crypto earnings. We're going to get to the chart of his actual token so you can see for yourselves how much of an extraction this was. Is this a negative thing? I'll leave it up to you to decide. But we could see, if you invested $10,000 in Bitcoin or Trump or the Trump meme coin today, or even gold, this is what you would have right now. I find this absolutely hilarious. Okay, so your Bitcoin would become, essentially half if you're $10,000 of Bitcoin worth of Bitcoin. If you had $10,000 worth of gold, it would become 15,000, which is a plus, and of course, if you invested into Trump's token, you'd have about $430. So they definitely essentially hate this guy. Otherwise, this article wouldn't exist, but that's okay. But if we actually look at the Trump token price, the full chart from the very beginning, you can totally see that the official Trump token launched on Solana on Pump.fun in January of 2025 has essentially gone down forever. Now, I want to let you guys know in this video, I'm going to show you one of my top meme coins that I'm selecting for this year. And of course, a bunch of others, but one of the top, we'll get to that in a moment. So you can see Vlad Tenev, he is the co-founder CEO of Robinhood, and they just recently launched the Robinhood Chain. As he says, while we're building Robinhood Chain to be the best chain for real world assets, it works great for memes too. And at that point, people proceeded to drop memes after memes after memes. Of course, they were doing it some days before when the chain actually launched, but meme after meme after meme after meme. Now, the question that people are asking, are crypto exchanges abandoning meme coins for tokenized assets? I think this is a silly question, and the answer is absolutely not, but it's a sign that there will be an increased amount of memes, actually an increased amount of real world assets compared to meme coins. An increase. It doesn't mean that there will be no meme coins, just less potentially in comparison. And we'll talk about Base's new B20 standard in a moment, which is going to be a gateway for a lot more tokenization. But let's hear what Vlad Tenev himself has to say about real world assets.
I believe that the future of crypto is in real world assets. If an asset is not tied to underlying utility, if it's not a productive asset, what's the benefit of making another million different meme coins? There's an evolution where crypto is becoming infrastructure that powers financial markets and in particular real world assets. So tokenized stocks, you'll have tokenized futures, tokenized privates, which is an area that we're also very deep into. Everything that is running on traditional rails will eventually become on-chain tokenized. I think increasingly crypto and traditional finance will merge, and not to say that, Bitcoin is going to become less important or meaningful, but I think that what drives crypto growth will be real assets with fundamental utility utilizing crypto technology.
So do you believe that Bitcoin is going to become less relevant over time? We'll see. Well, as you see with RWA.xyz, we have a lot of tokenized assets on chain, many blockchains that are working with financial institutions, and a lot of capital is flowing in. Let's just keep it simple. Whether it's US treasuries, commodities, different corporate credit stocks, real estate, it's all going on chain. People want things to be instant, active within 24 hours. 24/7 is what I mean to say, right? Jesse, as you see from Base, has announced this B20 native token standard. And this native token standard allows for the burning, minting, all sorts of different functionality for token issuance and token control. So this is perfect for bonds, credits, so much, essentially so many different types of assets to be created on chain. Of course, meme coins will come with that. And we discussed this in the previous video, so definitely dive in and look at that. But as we see, we've got launch pads, of course, for these meme tokens. I'm looking at Base right now. One of the top tokens that's a B20 standard token is this one right here. You'll see that right there. The top ones are there. But of course, we also have Robinhood. Robinhood is the new kid on the block, or let's say the new corporate kid on the block. Now let's look at L2Beat. What we're looking at here is we want to look a little bit at the inflows of capital into these chains quickly. And you can clearly see that upwards to the right, it's a corporate chain. So we will absolutely see more and more value locked on the chain, or we call it TVL, total value locked. How much money is actually flowing into this blockchain? Well, we can see the numbers are clearly labeled right here. We want to see an increase of volume, an increase of capital flowing in. As you see, money's flowing a little bit out of base, but yeah, money's flowing from Ethereum, as you see, to base in a very strong way, but it's also flowing in and out of Robinhood. And Robinhood's only going to get bigger. As you can imagine, the chain is connected to Robinhood, which is a very popular app, not in my country, but in many countries around the world. I suppose the US and others, people are using Robinhood. But you can just look, everything is up and to the right. So this is a good sign as well that the chain itself is going to become more adopted. So we are looking for meme coins on this chain. Why are we diving into Robinhood? Well, we're diving a little bit into Robinhood and Base and smaller tokens, because if we're looking for memes, we want to be early to find memes on chains that are, again, brand new, just launched. Perhaps as an Ethereum L2, people hate that type of idea, even though I understand Ethereum in a different way compared to most people. I'm looking at Ethereum as a platform for like social good, in a sense, like a shopping mall. They want Ethereum to be low cost. They want people to build their stores in there and to have good security and good access, good marketing, good branding, good recognition. So I'm not against L2s, but let's go into right now the top meme that I think is not even undervalued, it's undiscovered at this rate. Okay, and you can thank me later if you buy in. Here we go. Hoodie. Now, this is a Robinhood asset, and it's created by a developer who's got some credibility. You know, we mentioned Ethereum earlier, right? The founder of Ethereum is Vitalik Buterin, who's also Canadian like myself. This founder is actually followed by Vitalik and other notable players in the blockchain space. One thing I like about Hoodie is just simple. It looks great. It's a very simple setting, a simple ticker. The hood stays on. I mean, that's just so easy. It's Robinhood. It's brand new. Okay. It's not a pump and dump. There are no paid actors promoting this. So therefore, I'm not one of them. I just found this by being on the timeline, being in the trenches. This particular guy, he launched this project called QR Coin. I was actually following QR Coin before I even knew who he was. Before this particular asset went live, I was already following QR Coin. So when I found out that it was the same guy, I said, wait a second, this is actually really good. I went to his website. Man, he's got a really cool website. He's got some really good services. I would like to actually sign up to talk to Jake in a one-on-one. It's $250, as you see, right? Guys, if you want me to meet Jake, meet the founder, let me know, and I will meet up with him right here. It's just one-on-one, and I can ask him every question you guys want to hear and know about. But let's dive into just a little bit deeper, not so much into this particular token, which we will dive in a little bit deeper, but just to show you what it means to find a good meme. It's got to be cultural. It's got to actually hit the spot with the X community. X is huge with this stuff. It can't necessarily be a pump and dump. This one is not even listed on a centralized exchange yet, which is absolutely fantastic. So you know there's no market making happening yet. In a sense, that means you're early, but also that means that there's a likelihood that market makers are actually building positions in this asset right now as we speak. So let's dive in a little bit deeper, okay? So here we go. The hood stays on. You guys can see the contract there. Some of my favorite people are following him, which I do respect. Now, this is the actual token account. So let me go ahead and follow that. And like I said, two of the great. So Deployer, he is the person that created Bankr, and we'll talk about Bankr actually a little bit later in the video as well. So he created Bankr, and Redphone is one of my good friends in the industry. We worked together for a good year, and it was fantastic. An amazing, brilliant mind. He's actually the creator, the I guess I can say inventor of BRC20s on Bitcoin, the first token standard like that on Bitcoin, JSON data. So give it up to these two guys right here. Absolutely think this one is a win, super big win. I've been into it since very early. So that's the account right there. And let's look at the actual chart. Now, we're not doing any technical analysis. Like I said, there's almost no point to do technical analysis on any token that is not listed on a centralized exchange. Okay, there's no market making going on in this. Well, I mean, maybe there's some on-chain market making, but not exactly. So my buy zones are essentially right here. When I first got in, we were pretty much right around here. So I still think we're at a decent point. We already had the 90% kind of like proverbial sell-off of meme coins. We've already had it, and it's not even listed on an exchange yet. So this again is a sign that there's a potential accumulation process going on here. Now, okay, so again, that's the first one, is HOODIE. The hood stays on. I'm a huge supporter of that one. Let's dive to the next one, which is kind of in a sense the number one on Robinhood for a couple of reasons, which I mentioned in my last video. So you'll notice that the followers of this one are pretty important, okay? The followers, Vlad himself from Robinhood actually follows CASHCAT. And I explained the thesis behind CASHCAT in a previous video, but we can kind of look at that right now, if anything. This is the point. CASHCAT, Vlad Tenev mentioned that this particular, CASHCAT was essentially the name of Robinhood before it became Robinhood. So this person essentially brought the lore of, this is the lore of CASHCAT essentially. I can't go there. This is the lore of this particular asset, okay? It is the idea that this was the original name. And of course, lo and behold, Vlad himself actually follows this project, which is a clear sign that this is on a road potentially to centralized exchange listings. Okay, so this is the asset. We can clearly look here. The reason I'm showing you here is to show you that, look at this. When you see an asset like this that is actually listed on centralized exchanges for perpetuals trading or some type of futures trading, this is a sign that we actually have market maker activity. So now we can actually do some TA on this and start to analyze entry points. Now, I do hope to see price come back into this region. Guys, this is obviously dependent on a lot of stuff like Bitcoin and other things in the markets, other markets, like maybe AI markets, stock markets, oil and so forth, and the dollar, and as that kind of affects Bitcoin. But to my view, on the 1 hour time frame, I can see a one level up, retrace, 2 levels up, retrace, 3 levels up. So I'm expecting some type of retrace, maybe down to this region, perhaps down to this region here. Would I be accumulating? The answer is absolutely yes. I do believe that CASHCAT right now is the number one major meme that could be recognized on major centralized exchanges like Binance, Kraken, and fill in the rest with all the other ones. But the main one that I'm calling is HOODIE. That is the main one. I think that is the underdog play of this particular chain, Robinhood Chain, and also the developer himself is pretty trusted. I mean, he's a respectable guy. Can't deny him. Like Jake, just good credibility. That's all around good credibility. So let's look at CASHCAT and just quickly look at some of the statistics here. So 27,000 holders, and that's really all I'm showing. I just want to show that it's pretty well spread out among the holders. Now, of course, you're going to see Uniswap has a large percent, but really they don't even have 4% in the Uniswap pool. And the largest holders, who knows, they've been there since the beginning, nobody has more than 2%. Now, that doesn't mean that one person couldn't have 15 wallets. It's really possible. So let's not look at that too seriously. But there's potential here for this thing to grow. And again, it's already listed on centralized exchanges, which means there is definitely market maker activity going on. Okay, now Bankr, like I mentioned, we will dive into Bankr. Also super powerful tooling, and HOODIE was launched on Bankr, like many meme coins will be launched on Bankr. So we look at Bankr as well now for, let's say, alpha in a way. Okay, any chain that Bankr is connected to, anytime Bankr, there you go, there's deployer right there, OX deployer, 0x deployer. We anticipate that when Bankr connects to a new chain, we anticipate many more tokens, memes, and so forth, cultural tokens, utility tokens, AI, this and that. We anticipate more and more of these projects to launch, or these tokens to launch. I don't want to call them projects just yet. Just because it's a token doesn't mean it's an actual project, right? But we look forward to more and more of these launches on Bankr. So when I saw that HOODIE was launched on Bankr, It's just another one of many, but then you dive in and you start to say, okay, this one is actually legit. This is legit. Let's look at Pump.fun. This is also, of course, another one of the major platforms for launching memes. Very cutthroat, very, very, very difficult to navigate unless you're really in the trenches and paying close attention. A lot of the memes are bought and sold within seconds. People will get in, they'll flip 30, 40, 50%, maybe 100%, maybe more, and they're selling, they're gone. Even before it has reached, before it has bonded, before it has graduated. So, and if you guys want more information on how to use Pump.fun in this type of product, then you have to let me know. But I want to show Pump.fun to show this major token called ANSEM, which is one of the bear market tokens that people believe will actually become a top player. Now, in my opinion, the token launched a little early, and I'll explain that by showing you the chart later, the Bitcoin chart, and I'll show you other charts that show when it's actually a great time to get into digital assets, in the sense that when it's clearly a sign that we have actually gone into full bull run mode. We are not there yet. I can show you the technical analysis I can kind of say prove it. Only time will tell. But the thesis will be laid out in this video as we connect. So as we continue. So ANSEM is one of the major players in the blockchain space, major players in the sense of an influential figure, an influential character. Now, I do believe he launched the token too early, because if you want to launch at the bottom of the market, the ideal time to launch is when Bitcoin is actually bullish. And I'll show you an example of that in a moment. But you can clearly see, but I do like this. It says that the developer sold in the first hour, half hour. Dev traded, dev sold. I think that's a really good way. It's kind of like spoof trades. I don't know if that was their plan, but I really think that was a good way to shake people out. But if you look at this is in the bear market. We have one of the most popular guys, again, popular, influential, who launches a token very close to the Bitcoin bottom. And we'll get to the Bitcoin chart in a minute. Very close to the Bitcoin bottom. You got to pay attention. So people had from June 16th all the way to June 27th, they had 10 to 11 days before this thing actually exploded. You cannot blame yourself or blame anybody if you didn't pay attention to this, okay? This was essentially infinitely obvious that the price of this was going to go to, quote unquote, to the moon. It's not like he launched at the peak of the bull market in October of 2025 or some other time. He launched close to the bottom of the bull market in the summer, when people are less interested, maybe apathetic and all sorts of things So I'll be watching this one quite a bit. I don't have a position in this one. I do believe we have some downside, but I'm not saying that it's a good idea to just sit on the sidelines. I do believe now is a great time to become active so that you yourself can actually find a good position. And you see, we've already had a good significant 80-90% drop. That is pretty much typical of every meme coin. Let's continue on to one of the top meme coins. This is PEPE. Now, if you'll notice, the reason why we have PEPE open is simple. You look at the chart. This says April 2023, okay? April 2023. Remember that date, April 15th, 2023. Let's look at the Bitcoin chart, and we can see that April 25th, 2023 was significantly into the bull run, or in the sense that Bitcoin by that time had already flipped bullish. April 2023 was here. That was a great time right here. So the bottom of the market was right here, and that meme coin launched right here, essentially just a few months later. That is a solid time to jump in with confidence, kind of in a sense blindly. I don't really mean that, but when you jump in when Bitcoin's already in a full trend up, you're almost inevitably going to win on the trade. So going back to ANSEM and some of the other tokens, even Robinhood Chain in general, launching at this time, I don't think it was the best time to launch an entire chain. We do anticipate more downside on Bitcoin, but that's fine. That's not to criticize. I'm still bullish on good memes, especially the ones that are not just paid, marketed by KOLs or just paid to get on centralized exchanges. I'm not a huge fan of that. We see what can happen, but as I see for a little bit of technical analysis right here, price analysis, I do see one drop on Bitcoin here. I see a retrace. I do see a second drop on Bitcoin and a retrace, and I do see a third drop, maybe in the process of dropping a little bit more. You guys can look at some of my previous videos to see my full technical analysis, price analysis, or simply join me at the community in the community at the link in the description, where we go into weekly deep dives into all of this stuff. Again, we look at centralized exchange liquidity. We trade in a way that is in line with market makers. This is why I'm going to go back again. This is why I'm so bullish on Hoodie. It's not market made just yet. It can be inevitably market made, but it's not market made just yet. And it's such an organic growth story. It's crazy. You know, I think it's absolutely just totally fantastic what they're doing here with this. And people are loving it. Like, you know, the community is absolutely gobbling this up. Okay. The community is just totally gobbling this up. And Jake, you know, much respect to Jake. Like I said, I was already following some of his work in the past before I knew anything about him. And I do want to sign up for a one-on-one with Jake for some life advice. You know, let's win together, like I always say. So finally, guys, head over to CoinWins.app. I built this for everybody to get the best in digital assets, the best in trading. And we can look at the charts and kind of see some of my custom indicators that I created. And this is just short-term Bitcoin trade. I'll give you guys my idea. I think, actually, let's go to the 4-hour where we don't need all the indicators. That's fine, right? I believe, like I said, there's a little bit more downside. Use these indicators, these candles, to give you some, let's say, leverage on the market, some leverage on essentially an indication as to where the volume is coming. Okay, these are high volume candles. Doesn't mean that price keeps going up on or down, but you can clearly see the colors of these candles are very simple to ensure that we get the best and only the best for our trades. So definitely want to thank you guys for joining this video and understanding exactly more about meme coins and when to jump in. The timing is very important. When Bitcoin is in a bull trend, that's a time to really lock in. Right now is a little bit scary, in a sense that we could see further downside, but on tokens like Hoodie, as an example, we could see further downside still. But again, it's not market made, it's straight off of a DEX. So we don't necessarily expect price to drop in any significant, crazy way if Bitcoin does tumble, simply due to the fact that there is no actual leverage on this right now. Once there's leverage, then we look at these technical levels and say, hey, okay, maybe it's time to make a different move, right? Maybe it's time to sit out. But there's no leverage on this play right now. So thank you so much for checking this one out, guys. There are many more meme coins that we can discover. I thought these would be a great set to show you, using PEPE to show you when to get in, a great time to launch, using ANSEM and Robinhood Chain to show you perhaps when it's not the greatest time to launch, but then also showing you something like Hoodie as something you can buy in super early and find an incredible amount of multiples into the future. All right. Thank you for checking this one out again. As usual, all the best